I want to bench press 400 pounds, or I want to clean 300 pounds, or I want to back squat 500 pounds. Whatever it might be, they do like to establish some goals. You know, let's say we want to do these goals before football season starts. But the biggest error becomes around actionable goals. So what would that mean? An actionable goal would be, I'm going to train 5 days a week from now in January or February all the way until football season starts in August. And that means even if my family takes vacation, I'm not taking time off. I'm going full steam ahead. I'm going to establish my rituals and my routine, and I am going to get the quantifiable goals because I've established the actionable goals. And so that's a big mistake that I see, and I see a lot of football coaches themselves do this. They don't establish goals. They don't revisit these goals weekly. They don't revisit these goals monthly, and it's hard for them to hold their players accountable long term, because at the end of football season, let's say football season ends in December, it's hard to hold kids accountable for that long of a period of time, especially if we're not at the collegiate ranks. But if you establish a consistent system and you hold them accountable at least on a monthly basis based off of their training schedule, you can establish how to get those goals, and you can knock those goals off the board likely by May or June, because the actionable goals come into play. So we're gonna cover 3 more of the top mistakes that football players make in their off-season training. If this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in becoming a freak athlete, you wanna get stronger, you wanna be more explosive, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. That third key mistake that football players make is they neglect mobility. They try to avoid mobility. They try to sit there and say, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna focus on this. It's not a big factor in my game. But the problem is, it is a huge factor. One, it's a huge factor in improving your hip level. If you can play with lower hip level, you're going to move better. You're going to win that fight, especially if you're down in the trenches. If you're a football player, if you're a wide receiver, if you're a running back, and you have more mobility in your shoulders, you'll have more stability in your shoulders. If you have more mobility in your hips, you can shimmy a little bit more effectively. You can cut more effectively. If your ankles are more mobile, you can get a steeper shin angle. That's going to help you accelerate at a faster pace. So all of these things come into play. Not to mention, if I improve my mobility, I'm going to be able to recover faster in the off season, so I can get more work done. I can hit my mobility, and I can improve my recovery because of what I'm doing from a mobility perspective. Finally, if you can lengthen your muscles, if I can lengthen my hamstrings when I'm executing a stiff-legged deadlift, my hamstrings will get stronger because lengthening is strengthening. Same thing with the pecs. If my pecs get more mobile, my shoulder girdle gets a little bit more mobile, I can get a little bit deeper with dumbbell benching, and that's going to help recruit more high threshold motor units. That's going to lead to a better lockout on the bench. It's going to lead to a better stiff arm. It's going to lead to a better duck set if I'm an offensive lineman. So all of these things come into play. Football players need to hit the mobility in the off season 3 to 4 days a week. 10 to 20 minutes is enough, and it's going to help dramatically improve your play. That second key factor, and I think this has a lot to do with the ego, okay, is not improving weak points. And so what we need to do as strength coaches, and what football coaches need to do, is analyze each player from a weakness of where do they lack joint stability? Where is their joint integrity an issue? That's gonna help us as strength coaches analyze, okay, their movement patterns might be a little bit off, but on top of that, now we can start to analyze their play alongside with those movement patterns, okay? So if we can address every single weakness, hey, we've got ankle mobility as a problem, we need to hit up that ankle mobility routine. Hey, our hips are a little bit stiff, we're not mobile. When we're down in the hole, we're really, really weak. We're not stable down in the hole. So we need to improve that full range of motion so that you, as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, can play a little bit lower. Or we go to those combines, we prep for the combines, and we see we're a little slow out of the cut. We see that we struggle with addressing the technical issues that come along with combine preparation. We see that there's a struggle even with a vertical jump. Maybe your vertical jump's not that great. These are all weaknesses that then as coaches, we can take that step back and we can say, hey, his vertical jump is 27, 28 inches. We got to get that up over 30 inches. All right, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna work on some more Olympic lifts. We're gonna work on strengthening through the full range of motion with some high bar back squats. We're gonna work on some different jumps to try and dramatically improve that. Now that first step's gonna be more effective. Or maybe it's an individual who in the weight room, they can do a really good back squat, but from a unilateral perspective, they have no dynamic trunk control. They're slow, they're a little weak from a unilateral perspective. Well, let's get them on the single leg squats. Let's address the single leg squats. So when we take that step back as coaches and we analyze each group of positional players, so linemen, skilled position guys, QBs, and we can take that step even further and analyze each individual athlete, that's going to help us diagnose their weaknesses, prescribe solutions to their weaknesses, and then that's going to help us develop a better overall player and a better overall team, simply because we took what those weaknesses were in the off season and we ran with it to improve the weaknesses, because at the end of the day, you are only as strong as your weakest link. So before we get to that number one problem with off-season training for football players, if you are heading to combines or you're going to a camp and you've got about 8 weeks, 10 weeks to prep, to get prepared for these camps coming up so that you can blast a really, really fast 40 time. You wanna show off what your vertical jump can do. You wanna hit a huge number on the bench press. We put together an entire program for athletes who are heading to camps, who are heading to combines, who wanna stun all of the recruiters that are out there looking for that next big football player, and that product is known as the Combine Camp. There's a link in the description down below. You can head over to garagestrength.com and pick up Combine Camp today. That number one problem with football players in the off season is they don't like to learn skills, and that's skill on every single level. Even football coaches will hammer skill work into these players, but a lot of players like to put up that block. They don't want to learn it, and that can go all the way down to learning the Olympic lifts properly, to learning how to clean, to learning how to snatch really, really effectively. It also can go along with learning how to block more effectively, learning how to take better steps as a skilled position player, or even down to those combine tests. If we're running a 5-10-5, if we're running a 40, if we're doing a vertical or the L cone, there is technical skill in all of these exercises and all of these movements. And if we can learn the mindset, the technical mindset that goes along with those combine tests, that go along with the technical skill of learning how to snatch or clean properly, now we take a more cerebral mindset when we approach the game of football. And that's what it takes to get to the next level. To get to the next level, we know that at the college level, there's more pre-snap adjustments than there are at the high school level. We know at the professional level, there's way more pre-snap movements and reads than at the collegiate level. So if we take it to the mindset of learning technical skills, now we aren't just meatheads who want to hit people on the field. We become meatheads who still want to hit people, but hit them with a little bit more of a skillful approach. We learn very precise footwork. We learn very precise handwork. We start to take the skill of learning the Olympic lifts and we apply it to the field. We start to learn skills in other sports. Think about the glide. The glide as a shot putter is almost exactly the same movement pattern of pass pro if you're a tackle. Look at someone like Joe Thomas. His technique, he's one of the best of all time. His technique on the field was unparalleled because he learned how to take the skill from being a glider and apply it directly to the football field. And this is what a lot of football players can do when they change their mindset, when they become more skillful and they embrace the struggles that come along with learning the Olympic lifts in the weight room. That all of a sudden can change their mindset when they get out onto the field. They have a more mindful approach, and when you have a more mindful approach, that's when you're gonna dominate your opponent. So in the off season, make sure that you're focusing on learning more skills that you can apply to the field. Make sure that you're adjusting and improving those weaknesses. We're hitting up that mobility 4 to 5 days a week, and we have quantifiable and actionable goals. You're establishing that from January, from February, you will train 5 days a week all the way to the football season in a periodized program. If you have a combine coming up in the next 8 to 10 weeks, or you're heading to a camp, click on the link down below. We put together our combine camp program to help you prepare and shock all those colleges out there so that you can completely change the trajectory of your career and you can get to a higher step at the collegiate level. If you want more information about football-based training, you can click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.